Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my video, and today we'll be doing the part 2 of the build video on the Skyline Raptor with the Hyperlite motors, the Quadrant ESCs, and the Furious FPV Radiance flight controller. And I'll leave a link down below in the description to part 1 of the build video, which was wiring up the motors to the ESCs and adding these protectors and the wire sleeving. If you wish to check that out, there will be a link below. So for this part 2, we're going to be finishing up the full physical build. So next, I'm going to make up an XT60 connector for this, because this flight controller can take full voltage here, and it has onboard regulators, you can see right here. So basically the way I was going to wire it is I'm going to have the main power come in on these two large pads in the back here, the ESCs, and then that'll just come up straight to my battery connector here. And then that'll pass power to all these safely without the PDB. And then I'll take full voltage from the other side and just put it up to the Radiance to power that and all the regulators on board there. So we should be good for that. So I'm going to make up an XT60, and I will show this one quick. Okay, so here's one of the 20mm standoffs here, and if I put the plate on, the flight controller is just going to mount on these soft mounts. These sides just bend down under real quick, but it'll be about that high. So you can see if we put the top plate on, it's going to be pretty close here. And if I get a 5-inch prop and stick it on here, you can see that actually comes pretty close to there. So I don't want to strap my battery leads to this standoff here. So I was actually considering pulling them up here, the connector out the edge right here, and zip tying it through the battery strap slot, because I'll still have plenty of room up here to do that, and I can move it around if I want. Oops, wrong side, but yeah, you get the idea. So I'll zip tie them here to keep them out of the way of the prop a little bit more. So let's start cutting these guys to length. Alright, so let's get these wires stripped here to go into the XT60 connector. And yes, I'm aware that they are different lengths. I did that on purpose because of the way this board is. I'm going to have to try and... I can't overlap them, or else the flight controller won't have enough room. So I'm going to try and run one this way and one this way, because I can't go over these capacitors either, because then it will be too thick. So this is going to be kind of bad. But hopefully it'll work. Let's tin these, and I have a large chisel tip on my iron, and I have it heated up really hot, 410 degrees, the hottest I ever go. These are going to take a lot of heat. Okay, both those wires are tinned, so now let's pre-tin the connector just a little bit. Help get things flowing once we connect it. Alright, and now for this, my negative is going to be the longer wire, and yes, I know they're both black, I don't have any red, and I also wanted them to be black, so as long as you just make sure you observe polarity, the colors don't matter, obviously. So my longer is my negative, just triple checking, which is this side, the XT60, they are marked on it. I'm just going to put it in some pliers there, hopefully. Let's see. Just heat it all up. There we go. Okay, there's that. Very nice joint there. Alright, there we go. So let's just add some heat shrink here. Just make sure it butts up all the way against the connector. Like that. And shrink it. So you can make sure you just push it down while it's shrinking the other end, so it doesn't slide up. Just make sure you don't burn your fingers. Right, there we go. Nice XT60, all black. So now it's this XT60 is mounted on here, and sorry I didn't really show it, but it was just so, I had to think about it for a while about how I'm going to do it. So I just did it off camera, and I think these probably should have been a little bit shorter, but with this running alongside of here and that, and then bending like that, this should allow just enough room for the FC to still fit on here. With the 12 gauge to still be soft mount in there, and then this should come up and probably actually strap to the front of this slot there. So we'll see. You know, basically just kind of gotta figure it out as I go, and if I need to adjust it, I will. This is really not ideal the way I've set this up, trying to use these 20mm standoffs, but I'll see if I can make it work. So next, let's get some signal wires soldered onto these ESCs because they do not come with any. So you're going to have to solder these up. That will come up to the flight controller. Alright, so here's the signal wires I got. These are 28 gauge wires. These are the thinnest I could find that were silicone and colored for the blue here. I think 30 gauge is the optimal size, but these are silicone, so much nicer than plastic. So this is going to come up. So the back right motor here, this will be ESC number 1 that's connected right here, and the pads are on the edge labeled with PWM and ground. And I will be running ground wires. So for this, on the board, it says ESC 1 and ground right here. You'll be able to read it if you have the board. So these are basically just going to have to come up here and make it longer just to get some wiggle room, because it can't go shorter, or you can't go longer, you can always go shorter. So let's just strip these here. Very careful on very thin wires. I'm only going to strip a tiny bit of these. There's that. Then I'll do the same for ground, but let me get my soldering iron tip changed to a much finer tip, and I'll lower the temperature. Alright, got these wires tinned. So now let's tin these two little pads on the board. Indefinitely lower your temperature. You do not want to overheat. So there we go, real quick. So PWM, which is going to be your signal. I'm going to make blue and just come under the board like this. And then make sure you get it seated well down into the pad. Yeah, these wires work really well for this. Much easier to work with than stock crappy plastic wires, so that's going to work well there. And then yeah, I'm actually going to have to recut these because I left way too much room. You can see I left like a whole inch, so I'll have to recut and strip those, but it doesn't matter because I won't be putting that down. So now I'm going to add the rest of them on here. This one will be a little tricky underneath this battery lead, these two, but yep, let's do those. Alright, all the signal wires are now attached. Hopefully I'll be able to get this all buttoned up here. So that's definitely way too finicky to do on camera because I have to work at it for about half an hour to get everything lined up and on here. But I'll show you when it's done. Hopefully it'll work because I really don't know what else I can do for the battery leads besides this method. So now I'm going to attach up all the signal and grounds for the ESCs. So I'm going to tin all those pads right here. Okay, so I'm tinning the, where is it, this one, the ESC1 pad and the ground. Right there. And then the ESC3 pad on this side and the ground. ESC4, ground. ESC2, ground. Wow, those tin very nice there. Okay, so I'm pulling up this back right one. The back right motor is ESC1. There we go. And let's do the ground. Just like that. over here. All of our ESCs are wired up there. It's pretty simple actually, and it looks quite clean. So yeah, now let's add the wires to power the flake controller down from actually down here on the 401 ESC. I probably should have done that first into the VBAT in, but yeah, those will just come over here. So I'll have to do that, and then we'll add the 12 volts for the video transmitter and the 5 volts for the camera, because this is onboard regs. Where's the 12 volts is here, and 5 volts we can get from over here. Alright, so let's start to prepare our video transmitter, our receiver, and our camera, which are the last things we need to install here. And I also was able to take this apart and finally get this to a stage I was happy with by adding a couple different versions, but I finally got it so it's still loose for the soft mounting, but it stays away from the wires, so it's not pinched, and the ESCs aren't shorting to the bottom there. So I also added the voltage from down here. I ran wires underneath and then come up to here to the VBAT pads on the board, because it takes the full voltage. You do not need a regulator. It has its own on board here. So actually I'm going to power the video transmitter here. This is the FX795T from 12 volts. And I'm just going to grab that off the board here, and then this also has its own regulator in it. I'm going to run 5 volts on that has 5 volts, and I run that back to the camera, because we should get pretty good filtering like that. So this is just going to stick in the back. I just tighten this down with the bulkhead and the little nut here on this connector. You can see I just tighten it down, and that goes there. But as you can see, it actually is like a little bit off the plate. So I'm going to have to add a couple, maybe 2 layers of foam tape to stick it down and just support it. But this will be tight once we screw the top plate in. But let's do that. Alright, and because this is actually all the sticky tape that I have left, it's a little 3M pad for a camera mount, but it works the same as this foam. I'm going to have to get a little creative here, because I need 2 layers for underneath the VTX here. Then I need at least 1 layer on top, because I'm going to lay my receiver on there. So I probably actually don't need this, because I have this so tight it'll support it, but yeah, I just wanted something. I didn't want it to hang there. So now or never. Let's see if it goes. Hopefully it's straight on there. Oh wow. Okay, so it looks like 2 pieces was actually the perfect height, because that line's right up there. And now that, oh my gosh, that is not moving at all. That's good. Okay. So that'll be good. And then our antenna will just screw out the back there. So for the receiver, before I mount that, and also I just want to point out real quick, this connector on the video transmitter, I really like it. It's got this little clip. It's like a little clip connector, so it is kind of proprietary. However, I find on my video transmitters a lot of time the plugs fall out, and this thing just a little slot, and then it cannot come back out unless you give it a little pressure right there, and then it comes right out. So I really like that, and I wish more were like that. But for sizing this guy up, these will be the 12 volts, which will go right here. I'm just going to run it across the top of the board. Okay, right there. Cut the JST off, and then I'm going to run these camera wires underneath the yellow, red, brown video 5 volts and ground there. They're going to run underneath to the camera, which is about here. As you can see, the camera I have is just an HS1177. It sits about right here, and this nasty plastic wire, I have to use a little bit of it. And I'll cut it just a little bit long right there. And now I'm going to strip and pre-tin all of these. I can just pop that right back out to make it easier. Alright, there we go. I've got the connector, and I just ran it underneath the PDB there. It was a little hard. And just to get it through, I twisted it all up and then put it through and then untwisted it to get the extra length back. And I might have made it a little bit too short, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Once again, always make your wires longer than they need to be. So I'm going to need to get some heat shrink for these wires actually, but I can do the power wires here. These are just going to go red to the 12 volts pad and black to the ground over here on the edge next to the USB. And that'll power a video transmitter, which will come back and power our flight controller. Alright, got some black heat shrink. Just put it down your wires. Red will be the voltage, yellow will be video, and black will be ground. It's the common standards, but always check to see the pinouts on your specific gear, because sometimes I've had colors not match up. So yep, voltage in, ground, no. Oh look, good thing I said that, huh? Because this is not a cable specifically for this, and you can see the yellow on the far right here is the voltage. The red is ground and black is video. Because of this specific cable I'm using is not meant for this camera, but it fits, and I removed the OSD white wire. So just prove myself right. Make sure you always check the pinouts. Don't just go on colors. But yeah, for the pinout of the VTX, the colors are right. Learn something every day, huh? So the ground is this red one, which connects to this one there, and then the yellow is the voltage on this cable. And you can swap, you could pull the wires out and put them in their respective spots, but I don't see the need. Just remember which ones they go in. Alright, now let's pull these down and heat shrink these. Okay, there we go. Twist it a little bit. Short up, and I can pull the connector back through to get rid of some of this slack. If I can get it there, that pulls that under. And then plug it in to the video transmitter like that. And reducing the slack, and yeah, that's not too bad. And then the camera will sit this way, right here, like this, and then have plenty of slack to tilt and to work. So that's a good length there. So I'm actually going to take this out and build the camera assembly for this frame, because you need to put your camera in first. Okay, all done with the camera assembly, and if you have the specific frame and you are looking for more help on how to assemble this, you can hopefully get a quick look of it here, as well as the link below to my frame review video. I go over more in depth on how to assemble these plates, but the HS1177 style camera just fits right in there. You don't even need to put the screws in. The plates themselves pinch it, and it keeps it at a very nice tension, but still tiltable up and down, and it protects the lens pretty well there. It's still a little bit in front, but it's pretty well in there, depending on what lens. This is a GoPro lens, so it's a little farther out than it would be normally. And then your session will sit up top. And since this pod's really nice, it's just going to pop right in like that, so we can actually leave this out till we finish. But let's just for a quick mock-up, plug the connector in and see how our wires are going to be if we push them down like that. Yeah, wires are going to be perfect right up in there. Nice. Alright, so next, let's get this out of here for now. Really convenient. And now we can look at putting our receiver in, which would basically be the last thing. So I'm just going to actually put this piece of sticky foam that I saved on top of the video transmitter, and I'm going to try and keep the little button available. There's also a mic, but I'm not using that on the video transmitter, so it doesn't matter. And for this, all these wires, I believe, let's see, okay, so this is S bus, this is CPPM, this is S port, and this is 5V and ground. Okay, so I don't need the green and yellow wires. Oops. Okay, there we go. I took those out, and you're supposed to lift the pads, little tabs, and pull them out, but I always just rip them out. I've never had anything bad happen just by doing that. So there we go. So 5V and ground and S bus right there. So let's put this guy back in, and this is basically just gonna sit about here, and the wires for 5V are right here. And I need to check my diagram of the Radiance actually. Alright, so I just referenced the manual, and it looks like on the pads right next to our ESC number 3 signal, these 1, 2, 3 in between here, ground, 5V, and RX2 are actually going to be perfect for application because the receiver's right here, and then we have ground, 5V, and S bus all in the right order, and they're just going to go straight there. It's literally wiring right there. This is working out so perfectly. So I'm going to cut these to length, and I don't really need to leave any wiggle room because this guy isn't going to move, and if it's too long, these are plastic, you can't really bunch them up. So I'm going to get them pretty close, but I want to leave just a tiny bit of wiggle room right there. So yeah, this is really nice. So I'm going to strip these and pretend the pads. The pads, ground plus 5V, and RX2. Right there. Now I'll solder these guys on. Let's pull in for this, so hopefully you can see it. Oops, got a little dangler solder on there. So I need my tweezers. That's not a good joint there, you want it to be. There we go, perfect. Right down against the pad. Perfect. Oh my gosh. That's so nice when something works out that well. And you can see I've got a little bit of wiggle room, because these antennas are going to come up. So I'm going to put these antennas. So I'm going to put these antennas here. Oops, solder, through these holes out the back to get them out of the way and give us room to get our receiver mounted here. There we go, perfect. And then I can still access the boot button on the receiver, as well as I'm kind of covering the button on the video transmitter to change channels, but I rarely change channels since I almost exclusively fly by myself. But if I push on the receiver, I can actually click it through that, and it's not hurting anything. So I'm going to do it like that. And then these will go up through the tubes. So I'm going to get this guy and just cut the ends off just to make it a little square. The last bit of sticky stuff. I need to get more of this. I need to buy another GoPro to get more. And this is a bad idea. I should have put this on before I put the antennas through. Okay, there we go. That's looking really nice there. Just a nice little stack. And I should probably put a zip tie or something around it. The video transmitter is actually too thick, and this sticky tape, it's not going to go anywhere. It just, yeah, doesn't look the best, I guess, and it might not be the greatest for heat dissipation on the video transmitter, but yeah, it'll do. Alright, so now basically I think we're pretty much done. So I'm going to start adding the standoffs in all of the holes. Alright, standoffs are all in. Everything looks great. Let's plug the camera assembly in. Boom, like that. Fit this guy in the slots right there. And then Actually, I'm going to tilt that forward just a little bit. Put the top plate, make sure I put my little battery thing facing up. Slot that in. It's going to go down with more standoffs, and that's going to fill up the whole deck, which is perfect. Alright, there goes that. And for the antenna tubes, it's going to be a little bit different because we got to cut these. So this little holder goes here. They come up through these holes, the antennas do. Cut them a little bit longer. Actually, it looks like I only need one. It's nice, I can save the other one for the next build. Little rubber end caps to seal off the top. It also looks pretty good. And get our screw. Tighten it down. Nice. Perfect. Not at a 90-degree angle, but it doesn't matter. You're going to get great range anyways. And these, oops, okay, well that's interesting. So, looks like I might have to add some kind of glue into these, or else I'm not getting them in all the way. I might put some kind of glue on the bottom, because the antennas themselves are never going to break, but they might pop out of that little holder, as I just showed. So, camera plate is going to go like that. There you go. And we can tighten down the camera assembly on top. And boom. We're done. Look at this beauty. Let's see if I can zoom out any more a little bit. Wow, this thing looks so nice in the all blue. And then I will be having the blue props as well as the pink spinners from the motors. I still actually do need to zip tie this XT60 here, so I'll do that. I'll add the props, and I might put a battery in the GoPro on, and we'll finish up with this. Wow. This is by far the best looking quad I have ever built, with the blue scheme and the low rider configuration, the motor protectors, the motors themselves. Everything on this just looks fantastic. So let's weigh this. Alright, so let's play a little guessing game. All up, dry, bare weight. Fully ready to fly without the battery. I'm going to guess, I don't know, 350. I don't really know weights without my battery in my GoPro session. But you can't see it. You're going to have to trust me. It's 351 grams. I was 1 gram off. Wow. And just so you know, I zip tied the battery there so it can't move. Okay, so 350. Now, let's add the battery. So now it's probably going to be, I don't know, 530. And it comes out to 523. And this is a 4S graphene 65C Hobby King battery. So Turnigy. So it's rare. It's a 177 gram battery. So it's about the heaviest battery you're going to run on this probably. And then with the GoPro, my other weights, my other quads are about 620, 630 grams. But with this, I'm expecting it to be under 600. Let's see what it is. 597, and then if we add the battery strap, 600, and there will be another battery strap for the session. There won't be one for the quad. I've misplaced it though. So we're looking at about 603 grams, which isn't too bad, and that's about 30 grams lighter than my other setup. So I'm definitely plenty happy with that. And honestly, for me, the weight isn't even really that big of a deal. And for the battery like this will just sit here. And then it can come up and plug in like that, and that should shield everything. Got the little stub Triumph on the back there. Man, this is going to be one nice flying quad. So I hope you enjoyed the build video, and if you watched part 1 as well, I hope you enjoyed that. And there will be part 3 coming very soon on this, which will be the software setup for the flight controller and the ESCs. That will be pretty new with those 2 new things. I never used them before. I'm sure I can figure it out. And then there will definitely be line of sight flight and FPV flights coming on this, guys. So it's going to be my main quad. Please subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll leave a link down below to my Patreon if you wish to help support the channel if you enjoyed this build video, because it certainly took a lot of time and effort, and very pleased with the result. So yeah, see you in the next video.